Hello Supercoaches, the teams are in for round 19, the final mini bye round of the year, and largely a good one for Supercoaches with lots of positives in these teams today. Speaking of positives, Jett Hatton missed the podcast last week, which is probably why you went so bloody well on the weekend. Kyo Weeks' VC smashed it last week.
Yeah, it ended up being pretty good. Ryan Pappenhausen not playing, so I had to scramble to get that 13th number. Decided to go Kyo Weeks, and when I bring in a new guy, I like to put the VC on him just for a bit of good luck. So I did that, and 165, but downgrade, which sucked. But yeah, it was good. Nearly beat my round 17 score. So
what were you for the week? The
100th and 10th or something like that.
Very good. So a nice little rankings rise.
Yeah, and well needed too. So
nice.
Yeah.
Wilso, how'd you go?
Not too bad. I think I scored 997, so it was enough to move me up like 5k rank. So I think I'm back in the top 20,000 now.
Ooh,
so
good.
I despite down talking Kyo Weeks last week, I ended up bringing him in myself. So it was a pretty good week.
I got a lot of texts over the weekend criticising me for criticising Kyo Weeks, but yeah, I just couldn't go there myself. But I'm still hovering around that 6,000 mark, about to break into the 5,000s, hopefully really soon. Biggest takeaway from today's teams, Jett?
Yeah, for me it's just Sandon Smith not being named in the 17 at all. Most thought he might get that 14 role, but whoever owns him, he's not going to be that AE nightmare now, so you can sort of hold on to him and wait and see.
Yeah, he's still the most popular sell this week, which I think makes sense given you've got these guys like Connor Watson, for example, coming through, Nathan Cleary. What's your big takeaway?
Big takeaway for me is Ryan Pappenhausen named to return.
Yeah.
I know he stuffed a lot of teams up last week when he was pulled out the day before, and lots of teams needed him to get a full team on the park. So he's back this week, and I think Supercoaches will be cheering about that.
Yep, hopefully he kicks goals, and we'll be watching that for late mail later in the week. For me, it's that all Origin players have been named a backup. All available guys are there in some form. So a lot of them are in the reserves benches, but equally, all the Origin guys have been named to backup as it currently stands, which is great news.
Yeah, well, I mean, lots of teams will be... myself, I'm depending on either Cam Munster or Nathan Cleary to back up, so fingers crossed.
A couple of other things we'll go through. Harry Grant, is he a better purchase than Connor Watson? We'll get to that later. Cameron Munster on the reserves. Tanner Boyd, is he the cheapie of the week? We'll get to all this later on. Supercoach Plus, $29.95 for the year, or you can get Code, which gives you absolutely all Supercoach, all sports, everything for $1 for the first month. It's an absolute bargain. Just test it out, see if you like it. All you've got to lose is $1. Onto that first game, the Sharkies, unaffected by Origin, which I always like to bring up when you're on the show, Jett, which is good for them this week, but obviously they're missing a lot of star power in that side.
Yeah, they're definitely going a bit worse than I thought they would at the start of the year, but nice little bye back to Shark Park against the Dolphins with a few outs. They could get some points on the field. Hines, McInnes, those type of guys back in Supercoach's sides is a positive.
Yeah, Fanua Blake back as well, which is a big in for my boys. On to the Dolphins. Obviously, Cody Nikorima out for around 5 weeks with that hamstring, which means that Sean O'Sullivan comes in. Herbie Farnworth's back for a lot of teams. Trey Fuller is in the reserves, so he's a guy that I've got half an eye on for draft. A stash, get him on the waiver wire for draft, and stash and see what happens in the final series.
Yeah, I mean, if they have an injury to the back line, you'd think he'd be one of the next guys up.
Yeah, coming back from an ACL, of course. So could be a little bit slow getting back into the form. On to the Knights v the Storm. Your boy Fletcher Hunt is at fullback for Kalen Ponga. I was hoping that Kyle McCarthy would get a spot there somewhere. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Either way, there's not a great deal of Supercoach action happening at the Knights.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with what I've seen from Fletcher Hunt, but just with the way the Knights are going, no Fletcher Sharp, no Kalen Ponga, there's just not going to be that much points in the team. So targeting a guy like Fletcher Hunt doesn't really seem right at this stage.
Onto the Storm, so Pappenhausen's back. Cameron Munster and Harry Grant are in reserves, so we'll wait and see what happens through Origin. Obviously, Munster would be in serious doubt due to the passing of his father, and condolences to the Munster family, but you would think that he probably doesn't back up this week. you've got Nick Meaney, one of the most popular purchases this week after 165 on the weekend. But with Pappenhausen back, Meaney is back to the centres, which means you just can't touch him.
Yeah, I'd definitely be fading him a lot. Part of the reason why he scored so well is because he was playing at fullback and, moving around the field and a lot of support play. So moving back to the centres, you'd think he's not going to be scoring like that every week.
Harry Grant. Is there any love for him? I know Connor Watson is by far the most popular at hooker this week, with a lot of people looking to sell Sandon Smith. Should Harry Grant be a little bit more popular than the 8th most popular purchase this week?
I don't think so. I think he's more of a round 20 buy than a round 19 buy, just because of that uncertainty of how many minutes he'll play. You've got guys like Tyron Wishart in there who could easily switch to 9, Bronson Garlick as well. So I'd wait and see. Just wait till next week and get him in.
Yeah, I think they're both the two guys you want for the run home. If I was picking up one this week, I think I'd go Connor Watson ahead of Grant. But if I'm picking up a hooker next week, I think I'd go Grant.
Of course, a lot of people are forced to move this week because a lot of hookers are out, including Starling, Sandon Smith, etc., Riley Smith. A whole bunch of guys are out. So you could be forced to... You could even go without a hooker this week, which I'm considering, and relying on my flex to come in that slot, which I think is a genuine tactic this year.
Risky play. Luckily I've got Cam McInnes, so I'm covered.
Onto the Dragons. So Val Holm has been named to back up. Thoughts on him as a purchase for the run home? Is he in the top 5, even 6 centre wingers in Supercoach this year?
I had him before Origin and he didn't do anything wrong. He just scores 70 every week. The attacking upside for him to go 120, 130 probably isn't there like there was in the past, just because the Dragons aren't going that good. And they've got a really tough draw the next few weeks. So I'd maybe see how they go. Wait till the run softens up a bit, and then I'd look to target Val Holmes. But there's so many good options there at centre wing, and at the moment I'm just not looking at him.
Yeah, I feel that he's probably the 6th best, maybe centre winger in Supercoach, so I'm not rushing to get him. I don't own Zach Lomax, so I'm going to get him first, having already owning guys like Lucas, Carraz, Farnworth, etc. It's a red-hot position, but Val Holmes just isn't quite in that top echelon for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at getting one more gun centre wing in, but I think I'm going Lomax or Kiraz above him for sure.
Your boy, Lycan King Tongia, who you tipped us into a long time ago, he's done his job, he's made 200k, now one of the most sold players this week. Are you selling?
I sold him a few weeks ago just because I needed the numbers. But yeah, he's done a good job. He's made almost 200k. Disappointing for those who had him last week with the low score on a round where people were scraping to get 13. So I'd move him on with that 12 in his rolling average because he's probably going to go down from here.
Yeah, definite sell for me as well.
Yep, I'm looking at moving him on definitely as well. And it could be to someone like Tanner Boyd, but we'll get to him in a sec. Onto the Roosters, so Sandon Smith benched. Not even in the 17 at all, which is a big blow for owners. Connor Watson, really popular, but we've run through him. Billy Smith named to return from that calf injury, which is great news. And Mark Nwanga Nitawazi, 5th most popular purchase, coming off back-to-back tons. I watched him live on the weekend and he is just a freak. I'm a very happy owner, but would you go out of your way to buy him this week?
I've had Mark in my team pretty much all year, so I've got a good look at him at both centre and wing. I reckon I prefer him at centre, to be honest, just when they give him early ball. Like, he breaks tackles, he makes stuff happen, but obviously the upside's there at wing as well. I think you got to get him in just because of how much of a attacking threat that he is and how much they like to give him the ball. So I think he's in that upper echelon of players. And yeah, not going to mention all the selfies that were asked when you were live watching Mark killing it on.
Yeah, it was a good day, that one, with the SC Playbook boys. On to Angus Crichton. Do you like him? Very cheap. Hasn't been going nearly as well as last year, but still going really well. I love him at that price. Won't get him this week, but potentially the week after or the week after that.
Yeah, I'm not really looking at forwards at the moment, but he would be up there for me. He's not doing as well as last year, which is a bit disappointing, but he is pretty cheap, and maybe coming out of the Origin period, he can get back to that top form. So he's definitely he's just one to watch for me for now, but I'm interested. Yeah,
it's hard to back up what he did last year. It was one of the great second row forward seasons of all time as a super coacher. So my back row is very weak at the moment, so I've got a big red circle around Angus Crichton as a buy this week.
Onto the Cowboys v the Dogs. At the Cowboys, the Origin guys have been named to back up. Drinkwater has been in great form, but you probably don't go the VC or C this week up against the Storm, even though it is at home.
Bulldogs.
You mean the Bulldogs?
Rather. Yeah. Although it did go pretty well against the Storm.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think after back-to-back losses, the Bulldogs are really going to try and show up for this game defensively, and I think it's going to be a bit of a rough matchup. So yeah, I agree.
I don't hate the captain on Drinkwater. I don't think there's many safe options this week. So who knows if Cleary backs up? You got a lot of players that aren't playing like Turbo and that. So I don't mind the Drinkwater captain.
Onto the Doggies. So Carraz has been named to back up in inverted commas. He's 18th man for the Blues. There was some chat that he'd come into the 17 for Brian Tu'o, but Tu'o is being cleared today. So Carraz will be the 18th man. Galvin out of the halves and back to the bench is interesting.
Yeah. I thought that was always going to happen with Montoya out, but then Montoya, didn't play. Well, he's injured now, so I thought there might be a chance that Burton goes to centre, but they've been so good this year with Burton at 6 and Sexton, so why mess with it?
Yeah, I mean, he looked really good at centre last week, but then obviously they just collapsed in the second half, so I think it seemed pretty likely that they were just going to revert back to Galvin on the bench, and yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case going forward.
The Warriors, so obviously Luke Metcalf out for the season with the ACL. That means Tanner Boyd comes into the team. He's in the low 300Ks. I think he's potentially cheapie of the week. The guy who's much more popular is Tamari Martin, but he is still on the bench. So I would avoid him and change that trade to Tanner Boyd instead. Is he a great cheapie? Probably not. And he's, it's arguable whether he even is a cheapie, to be honest, in those low 300Ks. But you can still free up a bit of cash.
I think it's definitely one to watch. We were talking about it before, and that there's a chance he kicks goals for them as well. So
that would be
one
huge.
to watch. If he does kick goals this weekend, I think he's one to consider in the next couple of weeks. But I'd be avoiding this week for sure.
He will 100% kick goals. He's top 3 goal kicker in the competition, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He just hits them so good. But I just think at that halfback 5'8" position, you'd be looking to upgrade to a guy like Nathan Cleary or one of those guys. I wouldn't be downgrading liking King Togia to Tanner Boyd when you want, guns in that position to run home.
To free up like $50,000 or whatever it is, something like that.
Yeah.
Onto the Tigers. Terrell May's killing it. I don't know if we need to talk too much about the Tigers, except for potentially Latu Fanu, who's starting to come good. Any thoughts on him?
I mean, I'm sort of in a boat where I need a 5'8" this week, but I think I'm looking elsewhere. He looked really good last week for them, but I think he hasn't quite grabbed me yet. So one to watch, I think.
Definitely a draft pickup.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking around on waivers, hunting around tonight before waivers open on Wednesday morning, he's definitely a guy to consider. Onto the Eels v the Panthers. Talon Silva, very popular this week. He's surging through the ownership rankings, but he's on the bench, so I'd be avoiding that trade.
Yeah, I do think he's just sort of joined them, but you'd think there's got to be a decent chance that he does get promoted to the starting side. They've been making changes to their hooking spot all season, but the fact that they're sort of playing later in the round is a bit too much risk there. So he could be one to pick up in the coming weeks, because if he does get big minutes, he's a gun.
Yeah, my second hooker is just not the place where I want to be making trades, especially when a lot of guys want to get in Harry Grant, Connor Watson. You don't want to be, people are getting down to single-digit trades. You don't want to be using 2 of those on your hooker spot, so I wouldn't look at him at all.
On to the Panthers. So the Origin guys have been named in reserves. Nathan Cleary, second most popular purchase this week. Obviously, most people are going from Sandon Smith to him. I can't talk anyone out of it. I think it's good. It's good. It's a good trade. If you don't own Nathan Cleary, get him in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on who your other halfback is. If you can get a halfback on the field this week, it's not as much of a risk if he does get rested. Plus, we were talking about it before the show. The Panthers just have a fantastic run coming up. 5 relatively easy games that he could go big in. So I'm not going to talk anyone out of it either, but you are taking a risk that he could potentially get rested.
Yeah, they're playing essentially the 4 bottom teams in the competition. Not quite, but they've got 4 really easy games coming up. Thoughts on Cleary?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough where I've got Daly Cherry Evans on the bye this week, so I can sort of wait for that game to see if he plays or not. If he plays, I'm going to bring him straight in. He's a captain option. It's a great draw, as you said, against the Eels, a team that historically he loves to get up and play against. So, yeah, if he plays and you can bring him in, I'd bring him in. But if you're in a situation where you're going to have to gamble on it, I'd wait till next week.
Yeah.
I did mention the Origin guys have been named to back up, but Brian To'o would surely be in a little bit of doubt. He's battling a hamstring injury. His knee's busted as well. He'll be playing probably under 100% fitness for the Blues this week, so I'd say he'd be a big chance to get rested.
Yep.
Onto the Titans via the Bronx, Queensland Derby. The Titans have Campbell back from concussion, which is good. David Fafita is back and on the bench.
Yeah, that's nice to see. Just nice to see him back playing footy. They need him. Another thing, they've Jalen DeGroot on the wing, which is a small win for very small amount of AJ Brimson owners, including myself. So Brimo remains at fullback. Tino's there as well, but I don't think many will want to play him, considering how many minutes he's played off these Origin games.
So he is quoted as saying that his sternum's getting better. So hopefully he does back up, but only averaging about 50 over the last 4 games, which is not good. So if you don't have to play him, I wouldn't play him.
Yeah, I mean, it's serviceable if you're desperate, but if you've got options, you don't have to start him.
Speaking of guys who you might not play, Payne Haas as well. He's been named, but carrying that back injury, which requires pain-killing injections. So another guy who I'd be reluctant to play this week, but I might have to.
Yeah, I think, sort of in the same boat as Brian To'o, you'd have to think that he's probably not going to back up, so you need a plan.
Yeah, particularly in that last game of the round, you can't be fiddling around. Certainly, I know a lot of people know this trick already, but put the R on him. Him and Tino both have the R, so you can switch to someone else easily and they're not stuck in your starting team, which makes it much harder to switch. On to Ezra Mam. Any love for him? 3rd most popular purchase this week.
He did a lot last week and didn't get a big score, which I always find alarming when guys, it feels like they need to do a lot to get a massive score. He carried them home and just had all those try assists, but he didn't even turn up, did he?
No, I think 96,
Yeah.
So just short. I need a 5'8" this week, and he's someone I'm looking at. I think it's a really good matchup, and since the Broncos, I think they're on a 4-game win streak, and he's sort of been instrumental in a lot of that. So the upside's there, and it's a good matchup, but yeah, the fact that he got 3 try assists, 3 line break assists, I'm pretty sure, and didn't turn up is a little bit concerning.
On to teams on the bye. So the Seagulls, you mentioned before, Rabbitohs on the bye, and Raiders. A lot of popular sells from the Raiders. Horsburgh, Starling, Tapane, Hosking are all in the top 10 most sold. It makes sense to me. I think all those guys have probably done their best work so far this season. They've made their money. Starling in particular has been my top hooker for the entire year, which I never thought I would have said. But if you've got him, he can go to Connor Watson, he can go to Harry Grant, whoever you want. And then you've got better guys than Horsburgh, Tapane, Hosking, etc. in that position, in those that sort of front row, back row positions. So I sell these guys, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma for the Raiders because they've got a good run home, but they've got the bye this week and they've still got another bye to come. So you've got to keep that in mind. I wouldn't talk anyone out of it, but if you can keep some of them, I think they've got a good schedule coming up.
Yeah, something I'll say from the team on the buys, I think Tom Trbojevic is a must-have in this new role. He's going to accumulate so many Supercoach points in the way he's playing, just getting those attacking opportunities, obviously at centre, and then how he just sweeps across and he plays that sweep and roll where he gets the try assists on the left-hand side. So, he's going to get so many opportunities to score Supercoach points there. So I think, he looks back. And
definite option for next week, and at a decent price too. Yeah. So he's definitely on my radar. Unfortunately, he will not get dual position because he hasn't played enough games at centre wing to satisfy the criteria. It might happen for next year, but only available at fullback going forward. That's it for our team's podcast. As I said, mostly a good day for super coaches. We'll catch you for the preview podcast on Thursday. That's changed from Wednesday, so we can take in all the post-origin wash-up. We'll catch you then.